The silence of space hung like a dense fog, oppressive and absolute. Captain Alexandra Reed stood before the command center of the Earth Fleet flagship, Elysium, staring at the swirling mass of stars beyond. Her mind was a razor's edge, cutting through the weight of the moment. Every calculation, every strategic move, had led them here, to this precise moment. Her crew's fate, and the future of humanity, rested on the precipice. "Ready the fleet," Reed's voice was low, but carried across the vast chamber with a quiet authority. The hum of the engines echoed in the background, as if the Elysium itself was preparing for battle. "Understood, Captain," Lieutenant Vargas replied, his fingers dancing across the touch screen in front of him. "All ships are on course, Captain. We'll arrive at Violin Prime in approximately 2 hours." Reed's eyes narrowed. The Galactic Council, the ancient alliance of alien species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, had no idea humanity had come this far. They thought Earth would bow to their might, as so many before them had. But they were wrong. Human resilience could not be calculated by the same methods that govern the countless alien civilizations. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sharp voice. "Captain, our reconnaissance ship has returned," came the voice of Commander Ellis, her second-in-command. "They've confirmed the Council fleet is mobilizing, but their arrogance blinds them. They think we're just a small threat." Reed turned toward him, her face impassive but her mind already calculating. "How many ships?" "3 dreadnoughts, 6 cruisers, a fleet of frigates," Ellis reported, his voice betraying the tension building within. "They're positioning themselves around Violin Prime, assuming we'll just submit." "Assume nothing," Reed said, her voice cutting through the uncertainty like a blade. She stepped toward the viewing pane, watching the distant, rotating image of Violin Prime. The station, gleaming and impenetrable, was the heart of the Galactic Council's power. The headquarters of their ancient, unchallenged rule. In the distance, the Elysium was accompanied by its small but powerful fleet, 6 ships, each an embodiment of human ingenuity. Less than the Council's forces, but they would have to make do. Reed had led them through impossible odds before. This wouldn't be the first time the odds were stacked against humanity. She would see to it that it wouldn't be the last. "Captain, I've been reviewing their tactics," said Lieutenant Vargas, eyes glued to the tactical screen. "They've got one weakness. The Council relies too much on their overconfidence. If we can exploit their complacency, we might stand a chance." Reed considered this, her fingers tapping the armrest of her chair. "Overconfidence," she muttered. "That's exactly how we'll win. We don't fight like them, and that's our advantage." Her mind turned the possibilities over, each scenario lighting a different spark in her brain. The humans had no experience in galactic warfare compared to the Council. They were brash, unrefined in tactics, and their ships, though formidable, were still a far cry from the ancient alien technology. But Reed knew something the Council didn't: humans fought with a heart. And hearts could be unpredictable. "You're sure about their fleet disposition?" Reed asked Vargas, shifting her focus back to him. "Yes, Captain. It's exactly as we anticipated. They're waiting for us to show our hand. And we'll show them something they won't expect," she said, her gaze turning hard. "Prepare to engage. This isn't just a mission, it's a message." Ellis leaned forward. "Message?" Reed's eyes flicked to him. "Humanity isn't here to submit. We're here to change the rules." As the orders echoed through the ship, her thoughts drifted briefly to Earth. To the people she had never met, to the civilians who had no idea the fleet was moving toward a battle that could decide their future. But that's what it had always been: those who made decisions never bore the brunt of the consequences. It was her job now. She couldn't afford to hesitate. Minutes ticked by, and the hum of the ship grew louder, the vibrations filling the air as the Elysium began to pick up speed, its engines pushing them toward their destination. As the fleet neared Violin Prime, the stars seemed to blur into streaks of light, the familiar darkness of deep space distorting into a maze of possibility. Suddenly, an urgent tone sliced through the calm of the command center. "Captain, incoming transmission from the Galactic Council," Vargas said. "It's a direct message from High Chancellor Arethic. Reed straightened. The name sent a shiver down her spine. Erithik was the face of the council, a creature of cold, arrogant logic. To him, humans were nothing more than a blip, an irritant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. He would think them weak, naive even, to be so bold. But that would be his mistake. Put it through, Reed ordered. A holographic image flickered to life in the center of the command deck, a tall, imposing figure standing in the middle. Erithik's eyes were black pools of emptiness, his expression regal, contemptuous. "You are Captain Reed, I presume?" The words rolled from his mouth with an unnerving calmness. How quaint, Earth's last attempt at resistance. "I trust you understand your position. You have no place here." Reed's gaze never wavered as she met the cold stare of the council's leader. "I understand perfectly, High Chancellor. And I trust you understand that you've underestimated humanity for far too long." A brief, cold laugh escaped Erithik. "Submit now, and we'll consider sparing your species. Otherwise, you will be eradicated." Reed leaned in closer, her eyes burning with defiance. "We don't submit. We fight. And we'll see who survives this time." The hologram flickered and then disappeared, leaving only the hum of the Elysium's engines in the air. The challenge had been thrown. "All ships, prepare for engagement," Reed commanded, her voice steady but filled with determination. "We fight for humanity." As the Earth fleet moved into position, the tension in the air was palpable. The Elysium led the charge, its path set toward the heart of the Galactic Council. The battle was inevitable. The fleet would not turn back. And neither would Reed. The Council had thought they would bend humanity to their will. They had thought wrong. The battle began not with a roar, but with the sharp hum of energy weapons charging and the unmistakable crackle of communication channels opening. As the Earth fleet's ships came into firing range, Captain Alexandra Reed's command center pulsed with activity. Every crew member, every officer, was ready, familiar faces hidden behind the cold glow of their consoles, working in synchronized rhythm. They knew what was at stake, and now, the first shots were about to be fired. "All ships, execute evasive maneuvers. Open fire on their lead dreadnought," Reed ordered, her voice precise and commanding. The Elysium shuddered as it engaged its weapons system, its powerful plasma cannons firing in synchronized bursts toward the lead dreadnought of the Galactic Council's fleet. The energy beams sliced through the void, but Erithik's forces were prepared. The alien dreadnought veered slightly, deflecting the plasma fire with a shimmering force field. "They've adapted quickly," said Lieutenant Vargas, watching the data streams pour in. "They're deploying their shields." Reed didn't flinch. "No matter. Keep them guessing. We don't play by their rules." The Elysium and its supporting ships swerved through the debris of exploded asteroids, weaving in and out of the incoming fire. The Council's fleet wasn't as nimble, their massive ships designed for brute force. The humans, though outmatched in firepower, had the advantage of agility and unpredictability. They weren't locked into the patterns that the Council expected. "Fire at will, target their engines," Reed continued, her gaze locked on the tactical map displayed before her. "We need to cripple their movement." The Elysium unleashed another barrage. This time, the blast struck true, a direct hit to one of the Council's smaller cruisers. The cruiser lurched, its engine core flickering before it exploded in a flash of light that briefly illuminated the battlefield. Reed's lips tightened into a brief smile, but there was no time to savor the victory. "We're not done yet." "Another cruiser coming in at 5 o'clock, Ellis warned, his hand gripping the console with anticipation. Reed's fingers tapped lightly on the armrest of her chair. "Activate countermeasures. We'll keep them on the defensive." As the Elysium executed a series of rapid barrel rolls, the smaller ships of the Earth fleet followed suit, scattering and regrouping. Plasma bolts continued to rain down around them, hitting the shields with violent force. Yet, human ships held their course, unwavering. They moved as one, like a living organism, taking blows and returning them tenfold. "Reed, their psychic shields are active," Vargas reported urgently. "We can't breach them with our standard weapons." They're blocking every direct hit. Reed exhaled, narrowing her eyes at the image of the Council fleet's formation. We knew they'd have tricks. Time for something different. Ellis, prep the new ordnance, let's see if they can block this. Captain? Ellis looked up, skepticism in his eyes. Just trust me, Reed said, her voice calm yet laced with resolve. They've got the psychic shields. But they've never faced this before. Fire the ion disruptors. Ellis didn't hesitate. He gave the order, and the Elysium's ion disruptors hummed to life. The weapon, a modification to their standard arsenal, fired a beam of concentrated ions at the alien ships. The energy wave rippled through the space, creating an invisible shockwave that disrupted the Council's shields, sending waves of static across the enemy fleet. The first dreadnought, previously so confident in its power, staggered slightly, its shield flickering. Reed didn't wait. Now, hit their engines. All ships, fire. The Earth fleet opened fire in unison. The ion disruptors, followed by plasma and railgun blasts, tore into the Council fleet. The dreadnought's shields crackled and flared, but they couldn't regenerate fast enough. A well-placed strike hit one of the massive engines, and the dreadnought lurched violently, its hull buckling under the pressure. The battle, which had seemed all but lost for humanity, suddenly tipped in their favor. The Galactic Council's forces scrambled to reposition, their arrogance fading into uncertainty. Yet, Erethic's voice, cold as ever, cut through the chaos. Don't let them fool you, Erethic commanded, his voice clear through the comms. They're nothing but children playing at war. We are the masters of this galaxy. No amount of tricks will save them. Reed's lips curled into a thin smile as she listened to his words. It was exactly what she had expected. Erethic's arrogance was his greatest weakness. He couldn't fathom a species as unpredictable as humanity. His belief in their superiority would blind him to their potential. Prepare to board their ship, Reed said, turning to Ellis. We'll take the fight to them. Boarding? Ellis raised an eyebrow. But we're still outgunned, Captain. Boarding is a distraction. We'll strike directly at their command center. I want Erethic on the ground, facing me. The orders went out, and the Earth Fleet strike teams prepared for a daring assault on the largest dreadnought. The goal was not just to defeat them, it was to make a statement. Humanity was not afraid. And it would not back down. As Reed watched the tactical feeds, the Council's forces seemed to waver. The once imposing fleet, which had assumed victory was assured, now seemed rattled. Their ships began to break formation, seeking to retreat, but it was too late. The humans had them on the ropes. Enemy dreadnought damaged, Vargas reported. Their shields are collapsing. We've got them on the run, Captain. Reed clenched her fist. Don't let up. This is our chance. The Elysium and its fleet pressed on, engaging the remaining Council ships in brutal close-quarter combat. The enemy ships were slower now, their movements more erratic as they tried desperately to regroup. But the humans pressed the advantage, attacking with relentless precision. One by one, the alien ships fell back, their shields weakening, their energy reserves dwindling. The Elysium's crew was firing on all cylinders, moving like a well-oiled machine. It was a delicate dance, but they were doing what humanity had always done best, fighting with heart and purpose. As the last cruiser fell, the battlefield quieted. The once mighty Galactic Council fleet had been reduced to nothing more than debris and burning wreckage. The Earth fleet hovered in the aftermath, victorious, but Reed knew better than to assume the battle was over. We've won this round, she said, her voice hard and resolute. But don't forget, they will regroup. This is far from over. Ellis looked at her, a glint of admiration in his eyes. But we've proven something, Captain. Humanity isn't a species to be taken lightly. Reed turned back toward the shattered remnants of the Council fleet. And we've only just begun. The aftermath of the battle was not one of triumph. It was one of grim determination, as though humanity had fought not for glory, but for survival. The Earth fleet hovered in the aftermath, surrounded by the wreckage of the Galactic Council's once pristine warships. The space between the ships was heavy, thick with the debris and sparks of damaged engines and failing shields. Every crew member aboard Elysium knew that while they had won a battle, they had not yet won the war. Captain Alexandra Reed stood in front of the command center window, staring out into the vast emptiness of space. Her face was set, her jaw tight with the burden of what was to come. She had expected to feel relief, but the victory was hollow. The Council would regroup, they would always regroup. But this time, they had seen humanity's strength, and that would not be so easily forgotten. "Captain," Ellis's voice broke the silence, pulling Reed from her thoughts. "The surviving Council fleet is retreating into the outer reaches of the system. They're attempting to re-establish their formation." Reed didn't turn around. "I know. They'll try to regroup, but it'll be too late. We've taken out most of their command ships. It's just a matter of time now. But they still have the ability to call for reinforcements," Vargas pointed out, his tone tinged with concern. "And the Council has the entire galaxy at its disposal. They can rebuild faster than we can imagine." Reed finally turned, meeting his gaze. "Then we'll make sure they know we're ready." "We're not going anywhere, Vargas. Not after everything we've fought for." "Captain, we've been receiving a direct message from High Chancellor Erethic," Lieutenant Vargas added, his fingers rapidly typing commands into his console. "He's requesting a meeting." "Put it through," Reed said, her voice calm but edged with suspicion. The message from Erethic was no surprise. He had been silent after the first defeat, but it was clear now that the Council was planning its next move. They wouldn't stop until they had reasserted their dominance, and Reed knew that meant one final confrontation. The holographic image of Erethic flickered to life before her. His dark, angular features glowed with an unsettling calm, but there was a trace of something else in his expression, something unreadable. He was more than just irritated. He was calculating. "Captain Reed," Erethic's voice echoed through the command center, a blend of disdain and control. "You've caused a significant amount of disruption. But you should understand, this is not your victory. It's merely a delay. You may have crippled our fleet, but the Council is vast, and we will not tolerate this insolence forever." Reed leaned forward, her voice steady but unwavering. "I don't care how vast your fleet is, Erethic. You've underestimated humanity for far too long. We're not just going to lie down and accept your rule. We're here to stay." Erethic's lips curled into a slight, mocking smile. "You still don't understand. Your species is fragile. You're nothing compared to the power we've amassed over millennia. The galaxy was never meant to be ruled by your kind. And yet here we are," Reed shot back, her words biting. "And here's the thing, Erethic. You may have all the power, but we have something you'll never understand. We fight for what's ours." There was a long silence between them. Erethic seemed to consider her words before speaking again. "You may think you've won, but you are too small to stand against the Council. But I'll offer you a chance, Captain Reed. Surrender now, and I will allow your people to live. I will spare your fleet." Reed's eyes narrowed. "And if we refuse? Then you will all die," Erethic replied coldly, his voice devoid of emotion. "I will personally see to it." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the command center in a tense silence. Reed stood motionless for a moment, considering the weight of the words she had just heard. There was no negotiating with Erethic. He believed in his superiority so completely that he couldn't even fathom the possibility of losing. Ellis stepped up beside her, his eyes wary. "Captain, you know what that means. He's preparing for a final strike." "We're ready," Reed said quietly. "We've been ready for this since the moment we arrived. It's not just about survival anymore. It's about proving that humanity will never back down." Vargas nodded, his voice tight with determination. "We've taken down their fleet once. We can do it again." Reed turned to face her crew, their faces set in grim resolve. "All ships, prepare for the final engagement." We're not just fighting for our survival anymore. We're fighting for the future of humanity. We're showing the galaxy that we are not to be underestimated. The Elysium and the remaining Earth fleet ships began to position themselves for the final battle. The remaining Council fleet was regrouping, preparing for a final push to crush the human resistance. The stars beyond seemed to grow darker, the vastness of space closing in around them. Minutes passed, then hours, as both fleets prepared for the inevitable. The tension was unbearable. The sound of steady breaths filled the room as Reed stood at the helm of the Elysium, her hands gripping the armrests of her chair. Her heart pounded, but her mind remained clear. This was their moment, the moment when humanity would decide its fate. There would be no turning back. "Captain," Ellis called, his voice suddenly sharp. "We've detected movement, Council reinforcements are on the way. But it's not just ships. We've picked up a single, massive energy signature. They're sending something far more dangerous than we've seen before." Reed's breath hitched for a fraction of a second. "What is it?" A moment later, the tactical display flashed a warning. A massive, singular ship, larger than any they had seen before, was emerging from the depths of the system. The energy readings were off the charts. "They're bringing in their war titan," Vargas said, his voice tight with disbelief. "The one they used to break their enemies." Reed's face hardened. "We've faced worse. Prepare to engage. No retreat. No surrender." As the enemy war titan loomed closer, the Earth fleet locked their weapons and braced for impact. This would be the final confrontation. If humanity was to survive, they would have to make it through this last battle, this ultimate test of their resilience. The Elysium was ready. Her crew was ready. Now, they would make their stand.